Hi, friends. This episode, I get to interview my very dear friend, Michelle, and it is a beautiful, amazing episode. I just want to give you a quick preview. We get to talk about a little bit about what Michelle does with her clients, but mostly, Michelle is a channeler. She channels the 13 pillars of light. And they have such a beautiful message of love in this world. And they specify this in the episode. We get to actually experience the channeling and we get to actually talk to the 13 pillars of light. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience. And they express this. I just felt really called to reiterate the fact that they talk about how the 13th pillar is you. It's me. It's you listening to this right now. It's Michelle when she's channeling. And really, it's that 13 pillars about bringing everybody in together as a collective, as a community. It's not like Michelle is doing something super fancy. She's just fulfilling her destiny by being a channeler, by sharing this message. But you yourself are part of this experience and part of the 13th pillar. And so you get to be in the energy of it when you are listening to it and when you are communicating with it or acting with these messages, and that you are always welcome to interact as much as you want as well. And that just felt really important to reiterate, because as we're moving forward, Michelle and I talk a lot about the collective energy moving forward, being more of a divine feminine, being more of a collective, a community, more of a matriarchal energy and moving out of the patriarchal energy. And so that's exactly what this feels like, where we're all coming together and taking care of each other and loving each other and really bringing each other up. And it's just a beautiful experience. And I'm looking forward to sharing this episode with you and this message with you. And I would love to hear your feedback after. So thank you so much. Let's dive in. Hi, friends. Welcome to the Full Heart Podcast. I know I say this every time, but I am very excited to talk to my guest today because it is my very good friend, Michelle. Michelle is a spiritual entrepreneur, intuitive channel, and guide for visionary women who are ready to trust themselves on a deeper level. Through human design, astrology, and feminine leadership, she supports intuitive women entrepreneurs in strengthening their inner voice, not just in life, also in business. She creates spaces where unconventional thinkers feel safe, seen, and empowered to lead from truth and love rather than fear. And on top of that, what I'm so excited to share and proud of her for diving into with me today, she channels the 13 pillars of light to share their message in the power of love, which again, I'm very excited to share with. So thank you for being here, Michelle.
Thanks for having me, honey. I love it. I'm so excited about this podcast for you too. This is amazing stuff. Woo!
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
This is amazing. And I just know that when I first started thinking about this, that you really were one of the first people that I wanted to have on, so much so that I thought I told you I wanted you to be on, but apparently I did not.
That's okay.
And when
That's
we finally
okay.
talked about it, you were like, "You want me to be on?"
Yeah, I was shocked, but listen, I get it, like when we're connected so well, it's like when it's like, "Hey, why am I?" No, no.
I was like, "We didn't talk about this? I swear
Yeah.
we talked about this."
Just in your head. It's all good. We all do that.
It was so funny. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I know we've been friends for a couple years, but for the people who don't know you and who are jumping in on this amazing journey with us, and even for those who do know you, tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Like, what brought you to where you are?
Yeah, I think, being where I'm at now in my 50s, it's easy to kind of look back and reflect a little bit than it was years ago. So I was raised in a Catholic family and, had, you know, stable home life. It was good. But I was also I always felt kind of like the odd one out, which is pretty common for a lot of people. We all feel that way, especially those of us who do things that are a little bit out of the box, type of thinking. So went to college, a degree in psychology and social work, did social work for many years, toughest job on the planet, did children's foster care and adult protective services. But I learned a lot about human behavior, the good, the good and the bad, right? Popped out of that, went into fabric sales, did that for many years. So, in human design, I'm a 4-1. If anybody understands human design at all here, profile. And truly that just means it's not what I know, it's who I know pretty much in all of my career paths. And that's exactly what it's been. And then ever since I was in sales, I always had a private practice in my home. We moved quite a few states away. and I started to really hone in on my own spiritual growth once I moved away from my hometown, which would have been in my 30s. So I've been kind of on a spiritual journey for the next 20 years and discovered that I had not known to me, but that I had a lot of intuitive abilities. And then when I took a deep dive into intuitive abilities, found out, well, everybody has intuitive abilities, but mine weren't anything that was like uber, like pronounced because I had a lot of claircognizance, which is knowing, which is a really tough one to understand that it's an intuitive ability. And that's definitely my strongest suit. And that came across very evidently in my human design chart. So I stepped into human design and astrology, and it kind of opened up my whole world for all my clients I was seeing one on one because I could actually see their blueprint, not meaning who they are, but the essence of their gifts and the essence of their shadows. And it helped me so much to understand and help them progress into what they needed. And then, the call of stepping truly out of everything else and steeping myself more into the channeling and helping other people really understand that intuitive side of themselves. So that's kind of the quick synopsis there. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, this is great. First of all, kudos to you for working in the foster care, wait, not foster, yes, the foster care
Foster care
system.
and adult protective services. Yeah, they were tough jobs.
My gosh, I
Yeah,
cannot
really
even
tough.
imagine the experiences you had in that.
It was a learning curve, that's for sure. And, I was, fresh out of college too. So, to jump in there without not a lot of living experience myself. Yeah.
Right.
But it caused me to, really helped me to observe human behavior in a way that the classroom setting could never have done. And it helped me grow really rapidly, very quickly, because you don't have time not to, right? So,
True.
yeah, and I give people a lot of credit I still have people who are still in it. And I left in 2003. So that's a long time they've been in it. So I always give them a lot of love because that's not an easy job.
It is not an easy job, but we do
Yeah.
need people to love on those people. I'm
Yes.
glad that they do it. I can't imagine. And then I love that you're like, and then I went to fabric sales.
Yeah, right? It was such a 180. Like, it was such a 180.
Were you kind of like, I just need to not work with people for a little bit? Like, was that part of it? Or was it, like you said, it's who you know? So was there some kind of connection?
I always find that for myself, it's always been like when I step through something that I know is no longer my thing, even as scary as it is, I always seem to land in the next best place. And I think that's and I didn't realize that at the time when I was doing it, but I've always had this very big, strong conviction, like leaving the state. When I left it, that was considered the golden shackles. Like, you stay in it, you're going to have a pension, you're going to have it all.
Right.
But my heart was dying inside. And so I had to make concessions with myself. And it was the hardest conversation to have with my husband, but I had to do it. And so it usually a lot of the times it's just by off chance when I'm talking with somebody. I ran into an old friend of mine and she kind of hooked me up because the jobs are very coveted in that industry. There's only like 20 reps for each company. And there's
Hmm.
not a lot of fabric companies that deal with furniture and interior designers. So it was very odd that I got it. But yeah, so I always felt like there's reasons why I'm weaving my way to where I'm at now in my 50s. Without knowing that I
Yes.
knew, it's that claircognizance. Like, I just knew I would land on my feet, but I didn't know how. And when you're younger, I think you're willing to take more risks.
True.
And I was. And I had to rip off the Band-Aid, and it was quite an adjustment for everybody in the family. But ultimately, it was the best thing for us with the learning and the growing, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay. And just to remind myself, I do want to come back to the clairs at some point because you're really good at explaining those. But first, I just want to highlight again how you said you just knew that it was time to move on from this thing, even though it was
Hmm.
scary and this thing you had was cushy and safe and stable and all the things that we're taught to want
Yeah.
in this world. But you just knew. And I think that a lot of people can really resonate with that and how terrifying it is to make that switch. And I know this wasn't the last time that this happened to you
No.
in life. But I just wonder if there's some wisdom you can share for people who are facing that, who are saying, like, I know I need to leave this thing, like I'm dying inside, but I don't even know what's next.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that especially in the timeline that we're at right now, just on the planet, right, with so much change happening for people and people realizing that you don't have to live this really mundane, get up, do the thing, and then go back to bed again. And I guess the only thing I would say is, all you can do is you can't project like, well, what's going to happen in 10 years. All you can do is deal with what's in the now. And if your heart is breaking now and you know this isn't the right thing for you, it's like it's an energy exchange, and the minute that you decide to like, "Okay, I'm gonna let this go, but I'm gonna be really open to what the next thing is." And I know that sounds really simple to do, and there's gonna be a lot of processing that you have to do, and I think sometimes when you're going through those big things to have professional or a best friend or somebody else who can kind of support you in it, but also taking the time to go inward and really meditate. I didn't have that per se at that age, but I did have that strong sense of knowing like something's it's going to work out. And I did develop something. Like it wasn't like I left one thing without having something else. I created a daycare center in my home because I had 2 kids at the time. But so I stepped right into something else. I'm a very fixed sign, so I do have to have steps available to me, but I didn't have the whole picture available to me. And I knew that that was just a stepping stone. Stepping stones are okay. I
Hmm.
don't know that we give ourselves that permission, especially if you have a family sometimes, right? Like, is it safe for me to do this? It's going to impact my whole world, like, especially for women. And it's kind of like, but if you
Right.
don't do this now, that resentment and everything else can kind of like disintegrate. So my advice is just take the one step, trust in that inner guidance that you have, and then make sure you have some supports set up for you that will cheer you on and not take you down during a transition, because that's a big one.
Okay, you just said a couple things that I've been highlighting in each conversation because I think they're so important. And number one is the self-trust and just really understanding that success is a unique thing. And two, that support system, having some kind of support system, whether it's the husband who's on your side or some family members or a best friend or like there's something in
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
to keep you going. And I know from personal experience as well, like sometimes you just have to close your eyes and trust. And
You
that's,
do. You do. And I think that a lot of times when you're making those decisions, what I found too is having a support network. But if you don't have the support network, if you don't have the support, you don't think that anyone's really going to support you in it, then the idea would be to make sure that you're really strong and with your conviction of what your decision is. Because have you never been around somebody who made a big decision and you were like, oh, she's just like done, like we're there. Okay, great.
yes.
Congratulations. And that will be with everybody else. But if you come in with one foot here and one foot there in the decision and announcing it, that's why I always say any dream or any decisions you're making, make sure that you feel steady in it and that you voiced it out loud to yourself so that when you tell other people, they feel that conviction, even though it may feel like, whoa, this is disruptive. Yeah. And it's a good reminder that if you are observing other people going through big pivots, I remember the 13 pillars talking about this a couple of years ago, that pivots were going to be really big, where people were going to be making big, big decisions. And that the idea is not to judge other people from their pivots, to support them because we're not in their shoes, right? And that if you're the person pivoting, hold your ground. But if you're the person observing a pivot or a change, a big change like that, make sure that you can step forward to see their vision with them without your I don't know, your perception of like what could happen. That's kind of important because it puts you in both places, because we've all had that time, right? Where
Yes.
I've watched somebody, I'm like, ooh, and I could feel it from them. They weren't confident. And I'm like, ooh, then I started like, are you sure? Like I've done that. Not healthy, but and now with a little bit more, age and wisdom, I hope that people always feel like that support from me when I know that they're in a pivot and they're not 100% there. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and everything you're saying, I mean, it just makes me think about my decision to take a gap year. I mean,
yeah.
I thought about it and pondered on it for like a year and just kind of observed people online who were doing what I wanted to do. And I didn't really talk about it much. I might have talked about it with you, like probably the earliest on, because I did feel that support. But then when I finally told my family, it's like, where they did not handle it well. And
Right. Right.
but I was finally at this point for the first time in my life where I said, "No, this is what I'm doing." Because finally But for me, like, there was just all this stuff in place, and I finally said, "No, this is what I'm doing. This is happening."
Okay.
And that's when things started to shift, like, the energy around me really started to shift, and to so far, everything that I've needed has been provided effortlessly. So I'm just continuing to step in that truth and trust, even though I have no idea what I'm doing next, I know that the next step is gonna be there.
Yeah.
And just to say that you did provide that support for me and to help me to move into that energy for myself, and I've seen you do it with clients as well, and I've
Yeah.
talked to some of your clients who are like, "That Michelle just made me so successful, I don't know what to do with myself now."
Very kind and sweet. But and again, I think I love that about women in general, right? Like we
Mhm.
can sense and see, and because we're kind of in this new evolution of who we are and what we're becoming, right? That we all recognize that we ourselves have been kind of masked behind cultural ideologies. And I think just watching you go through your rapid change, it was pretty rapid. Like, although, when you're going through it, it doesn't feel
It
rapid.
doesn't feel that way.
It's like, oh yeah, this is the toughest thing. But when you look back at it, you're like, wow, that was one of the biggest pivots and change in my world. And I love how you've leaned into the trusting of what's next, because that's where we're all at. Like there isn't any, back when our parents, were, having families, like you got into a company, everybody knew roles, right?
Mhm.
Roles were really important and how you were looked at. And so there was this sense of well-being, like if I do this, this, and this will happen. And that's the ultimate goal, right? Everybody had like this one goal, like own a home, have children, you know, whatever. And everybody's culture is a little different with that. And nowadays it's like we're here to live with a little bit more, we're here to live with driven desire that increases aligned action. And when we do that, it means that we can't know what it's going to look like or how it comes upon. Like, seriously, you had been talking about, I know we're pivoting, but this is really important, I think, is like you were pivoting, like, I want to do this thing and I want to travel a little bit. But how it came about, that's always the surprising part about
Mhm.
how it comes apart. It's usually never the way we think it's going to be.
Never. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you pointed that out,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
'Cause
That's
we try
fun.
to prepare, have a
Yeah.
plan, because again, that's something else. This is something I see that we've been taught in schools and drilled into us and in the patriarchal environment and the environment our parents grew up in, like you just said, it's like, have a plan, do this thing, mark off the steps. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't really work anymore.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't. And I think it just keeps our logical mind, it keeps our ego intact with like, I have to be in control of something because there's change coming. And if I'm going to have change, I got to have something to focus in on. But again, that can tip us off into, it's interesting how many people I've seen where what they desired or want, it's there, they're experiencing it, but they're still clicked into this egoic way of like, it should be, but this is how it should be happy. I literally just had this conversation with a client yesterday. And it's so easy to get caught up in how we think it should happen, how the money should be flowing to her. It was mind bending in a cool way because what she had dreamed about was here, but she skipped over it. And then she was like, but it's not coming through this way. And I'm like, does it matter where the finances come from? You're a Manny Jen. You're going to have multiple ways of it coming in. And you just got something that's steady Eddie. So you can take a breath. She didn't see it that way long enough for her to anchor it in. And that's the cool part is like, typically, just like what you experienced, something's going to land where you're going to have a specific time to kind of integrate the newness, to give you like the universe, God, spirit, whatever you call it, is always going to give you a landing point where you have a few minutes to kind of shake through it. But we in our busyness and the ego that says, oh my God, I don't want this change. I don't want this change, will say, but it's not happening. And it's like, but you're living in it now.
It's so wild how we gaslight
Crazy.
ourselves that way.
Truly. Oh, that's a great word for it. We do gaslight ourselves with that, Rebecca. It's kind of amazing.
Okay, yes. The way that our human mind works, along with our spiritual body, like that's what I love about the work that you and I do. And
Yeah.
specifically watching the way you work and listening to you is to just observe how funny it is to be human. Like with our human brain and our spiritual connectedness, anybody who is connected spiritually, and then to see how like Okay, I get the image of oil and water, but in a playful way. Like, I just got this image. I totally forgot about this thing. This is interesting. So
Okay.
when I was a kid, I made got like an old bottle and I put water in it and then dyed it blue and then put some oil in it, so it doesn't mix. But then I could like move it around and like play with it a little, and then it
Yes.
kind of looked like a lava lamp of
Yes,
sorts.
girl.
I don't remember ever doing like this just popped in my brain. So that's what it feels like. It's like, yeah, it doesn't really mix, but it's not supposed to, but you can play with it.
Yes. You can play with it. I love that. That's another good example of like yin yang, masculine, feminine, they, them. That's a really
Mm.
interesting one to talk about it in that way with water and
Okay, can
oil.
we expand on that a bit? Because I was listening to you talk about it in your free experience that you're sharing with people. In case anybody's
Yeah.
interested in learning more about 13 Pillars, we are going to dig into this. And Michelle has a free thing you can join on her website to go listen to a lot of these transmissions, and they're fabulous. But you were talking a little bit about the yin yang and the masculine feminine. Do you mind expanding on that just a little bit?
Yeah, so the 13 pillars have really been talking about how on earth, really, this is an earthly experience, and one of our experiences was to come in and to kind of understand the differences between being masculine and being feminine, and the blending of the two at times, and then the experience of honing in on one energy more or not. But truly, that's kind of where we're at right now, is this mixing of blending of the two where one no longer has power over the other. And it's kind of cool. And listen, I think you just listened to the transmission. So if I'm forgetting something, because I have a tendency after the transmission to kind of like lose a lot of it.
Yeah, that psychic amnesia. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just know that part of the journey is for all of us to really experience this idea of the feminine energy coming through as an, I don't like using this word, but I don't know another word to say, is balancing out that masculine that has been dominating over the planet. The patriarchal has been so freaking strong. And so what has been diluted and what has been made fun of, what has been said that it's less than, is the natural abilities of the feminine, which is to tune into your intuition, that softer voice, that voice that carries with it the potential of massive change, but only doing it in a way that's in your highest good of all. And it's not a push. It is, intuition can be a push, but it isn't a push in you're going to do this to be better or to amass power or to amass fortune. Not to say that that doesn't happen, but the balance that they're constantly talking about is how we as the feminine collective have an opportunity right now to really enhance ourselves with how could I blend in what I know is my truth and bring it into a really masculine dominated place. And that's dying away. Like we're already seeing that, we're living it. It's,
We are front and
yeah,
center, and
we are
it's
front and center
fascinating.
into it. Yeah. So, and then they really talk a lot about this aspect of love and what love truly is. And the yin and the yang, like when a lot of times when I'm channeling, they give me a lot of visuals during it. And so the yin and the yang, it's in balance. Like it's in balance. In any of the pictures that you learn, yin and yang, which to me
Hmm.
is, it can be masculine, feminine, him, her, they, them.
Right. Dark light.
Yes, it's in balance of one another. We need both entities, but we need
Hmm.
them to show up where control and power is no longer what controls or dominates the world. It's community, because that's what the feminine is about. It's collaboration. That's what women are about. And it doesn't mean that we lose ourselves in it. Now, that's the other side of the feminine that I think we have, because our voice and our intellect through our intuition has been so doused and told. The worst word people can say to me is woo. I hate the word woo because it is very dismissive.
Hmm.
This isn't dismissive work. This is profound work that when we're in tune with ourselves, with the feminine, we know how much the earth can give us without damaging her. We know how much we need in order to live and survive. We know what other people need. But what happened is when the masculine really took over, right, and dominated using power and force and money and sex, right? That's very evident
Yes.
that when they use that, what happened for us is for a lot of the feminine energies, we then had to become like over caring to the point
Hmm.
where we burnt ourselves out in caring for everybody else and not ourselves, because the intuition is a softer voice.
Hmm.
And so we're learning how to bring that back online and have that stability within all of ourselves of doing that. And that's where we're at. And that's what the collective is saying. That's what the 13 pillars are constantly talking about. It's like, that's kind of the mission of planet Earth. It's one of the missions in this trajectory where you guys are at. That's what you've been experiencing for a really long time. And it took you a really long time to wake up to see the illusions that you all created and that you are all going to break down together.
Okay, that is beautiful. And what a time to be alive to watch this transition.
Yeah.
I don't want to say destruction because it feels more creative than that. It feels like a transition. Would you say that? Is that correct?
Truly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're all going through a new, birthing canal, even if you could say it that way. Like both energies, all the energies are having upgrades, which means that people who have had any use of abuse of control and power, yeah, they're going to try to hold on to that because without that, which is their ego, without that, who are they? And that's what they're questioning. That means that they feel like they're giving their
Yes.
power away, which means they want to hold on to them. Or that's what power is, right? It's this gripping of the ego that says if somebody else takes something from me, I no longer have power because you never had the real power. It was made up and people followed along with you. They followed along with what the premise was. Another thing the pillars have talked about is this concept of manifesting, which I thought was really interesting. And these, by the way, are all like what you said, they're in the collective transmissions and they're free. But they talked about the idea that manifesting is something that the power that was lying in the masculine, they learned it earlier on. We were in the illusion of just safety of trying to survive,
Hmm.
meaning people, not just men, people, men and women, right? Or people who identified it, as they, them. And when we started to wake up, when the veil got thinner, we started to learn about manifesting, which caused that power that they had over, because manifesting can be tipped in any direction, by the way.
For sure. We've seen that on a grand scale as
Yeah.
well, which
Yeah.
we'll gloss over, but
Yeah.
yes.
And so they talk quite a bit about this concept of like the concept of manifestations ready to shift itself. Yeah. And that's kind of exciting to hear because we've all woken up to realize, wait a minute, I can also have what I desire and not do it in the logical way that we've all been taught. That was kind of the awakening for all of us. And then those that were using it have been misusing it in a way that has been harmful, right? That was their wake up call. That's when they started to really grip onto their power. But that's for another topic. Sorry.
Well, no, I'm glad you brought up the idea of power because I did want to ask you and the 13 pillars about this concept. Because as you and I have talked about, and I've made an episode about this as well with Bad Bunny's speech at the Grammys and his performance at the Super Bowl, his main message is that love is more powerful than fear. In his Grammy speech, he said the only thing more powerful than hate is love. And then he had the billboard in his performance said love is more powerful than hate. I I keep thinking about that phrase because I wholeheartedly believe it, like
Yeah.
jumping on board. But the word power keeps coming to me because the display of power we're seeing, as you just said, feels so gross and obtuse comes to mind and just overly exaggerated and more of a destructive use of power. But when I think about love as a power, it feels so much more creative and it feels like what we're moving into more of a movement, a creation. And when I think about the power of the feminine rising, like we're talking about, I mean, it does feel so much powerful. You can't deny that love has power, that woman giving birth is powerful, right? But it's a very different power than a man exerting his dominance or
Yes.
a different power than the capitalism we've been surviving under so far. And so I just keep thinking, why don't we have two different words? Like power describes both things, but they're very different powers.
Hmm.
So I was curious
Hmm.
if the 13 pillars had any insights on that.
Truly. That's one of their hot topics right there. So do you want me to tap into them?
If you could.
Okay, yeah. So I just want to explain really quick. Sometimes my eyes are closed, sometimes they pop open. I do this as organically as possible because this is how it comes through for me. So even if my eyes are open, it doesn't mean that I'm not connected. I'm connected and it's just flowing through. But at the beginning, I typically do close my eyes to connect up. And then they'll usually do like a greeting. And then, I mean, many people listen to channels, they know, but I explain mine because everybody's is different. So here we go.
Okay.
Okay. So just give me a second to kind of tap in. I need to explain something really quickly.
Okay.
Sorry. They just
Okay.
reminded me.
Good.
The significance of the 13 pillars is pretty important here.
Mhm.
So when the pillars came to me, they were 12 pillars, and then it shifted to 13 because they said, I'm the 13th.
Mm.
But what people have to understand is it's not a me thing. It is when you're listening to it, you're the 13th pillar. So all of us who are listening to this collective energy speaking, you become a part of the pillar because they don't want people to think that there's something outside of them that has all the wisdom. The wisdom really is in with all of us. And every time you tap into this energy, you become a part of the wisdom yourself. And that it is more of a feminine based energy field that I tap into. They're stepping forward. And so it doesn't mean that there isn't masculine, but again, they don't necessarily identify with masculine and feminine the way we do here on earth. So it's hard to describe this idea of like, oh, there's a big difference, but they do want to understand that the voices coming through have more of an essence of feminine. But when I'm in this, I'm the 13th pillar. And if you're listening to this and with Rebecca here, she is also a part of the 13th. So it's not that it's separate from you, it is a part of you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's
Different
a beautiful
concept.
imagery. I'm
Yeah.
glad you clarified that.
Yeah. It's very important because I think once people really can own it, the more that they listen to it, they sense the energy and then something just happens. Like that transmission just takes over for whatever you need to hear and respond to.
Mhm.
Okay. So thank you.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Here we go.
Okay.
We are very excited to be here with you, sharing this information for those who are ready to receive more of a transmission when it comes to understanding the honesty and the truth behind love and the concept of love, of how it's been so convoluted here on your planet now. And so we are excited to begin this transmission with you all, hoping that you take a moment to feel the connection of the light within the center of your being. And as you breathe in, feeling that connection with the pillar of light, the 13th, the most feminine number on your planet. And so as you take a moment to breathe in, you may feel the essence upon your spine, going from the top of your head down to your tailbone and allowing to release anything that no longer serves you in this moment so that you can open yourself up to the power of true love, the divinity of who you came here to be, which is the essence of a human having an experience with its purpose flowing forward in a way that causes you to grow on this planet, but also share your gifts and talents in ways that you didn't even deem were possible. And that always means leading with love in every aspect of your life. Everything that you want to attune to just becomes because love leads the way, which means that passion and things that you desire, not from a standpoint of what I get from it, but from the standpoint of sharing your souls to other people. Manifesting is beginning to take this epic revolution because what's going to become is the sharing of what is that your soul is desiring. And it blends in with what the ego wants. But the ego has been dominating into this idea and the essence of manifestations. So we want everyone here listening to this particular channel to understand that the essence of who you are always leads with love, purpose, and desire mixed together, and allowing yourself to lead the way by responding to your world with things that tune into your heart. Now, it doesn't mean that wanting things that you might gather as money or gifts or cars or situations of that do not arise also. But the premise needs to be more now about how is it that I can share what I have within me, the wisdom I came in with. You all have spent a millennia trying to solve and heal things and wounds. And although that still needs to be prominent, that still needs to be filtered through. What needs now to take a stance more firmly is knowing that you came in with gifts. Every single one of you has gifts, has things that you've brought through from previous timelines. And you came here to collaborate with everyone else on the planet with what your particular gift is. And so we are excited to have this conversation with you today to inspire you to look at your world with eyes leading with love and passion fully and not take steps backwards in the sense of, is this for me? Shall I, take part in this type of situation and what will I receive from it? because when you give from your heart, you receive instantaneously. There's nothing else for you to gather within that. And so, although we are very excited and the energy is flowing very lovely within this exchange, and we can feel the pillars really having its moment with you, Rebecca, who are sitting here with us, and others that will be listening, for we can see and sense those that are gathering within this space. We're open to allowing you to ask us a few questions on anything pertaining that's in your heart and desire in this moment.
Well, I am so grateful for this experience and for this opportunity to ask some questions because everything that I have heard of you through Michelle very much connects with my entire mission inside of my heart as well. And so thank you for sharing the transmission of love. And that's one thing that I really have a question about because I keep thinking about love and the power of love and the word power. And I was curious if you could expand a little bit more on the idea of power.
Power has been something that the very few that came onto this planet many, many millennia ago, millions of years ago, actually, and the histories of all of that have been wiped out, which was needed at the time. I think a lot of people who are wanting to know about the history of the earth, it is so vast and it is so large. And it is one of the reasons why you guys call the veil has come through, because the amount of information as you come in through a fetus form, as you're birthed into this planetary sphere, what happens is that it is overwhelming alone just in the senses of popping back into this state on Earth currently as it's functioning. And so therefore power has been the thing that has been deemed because the veil has been there and the veil has been very thick. So power and the history of power is something that has been, shall we say, not wiped out, but it is the frequency of it has been pushed back into the ethers so that all of you coming through could try to remember your own power within. So there is, we understand what you see as almost a teeter-totter, as in I have power within me, yet people try to take my power. And so how we would like you to look at it is, in the truth, when you are living from the essence of love flowing from your heart with your gifts intact, means that you have to take the time to understand who you truly are. And all of the past information that has flooded just as a collective energy of trying to understand the human being and where we all came from is that you have a lot of energy steeped upon. If we control the narrative of how you came in, then therefore we own the power over you. And it was actually a system that was devised so that those of you who chose to come during this timeline were going to have to learn how to break through those realms of those having the knowledge of where you did come from, hidden and keeping away from you, and for you to reach out to understand, where is my power? Your power lies within your heart. And it is nothing that you have to search for. But the problem has been that you all have felt as if I seek out my power, is ego going to take over? And what we say to that is, ego is for those who are nervous to make change. And the ego part the ego energy that has been very open on your planet, has been running the show on your planet, is now taking the back seat, because the minute you acknowledge, am I in power for myself so therefore I can step through with love? Or am I in power because I have fear that people are going to, quote, figure me out and realize I don't have gifts and this has all been an illusion? This has been something that I have created. It's what you all refer to as, we're seeking the word. There is a word many of you use.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Exactly. That is the word. That is the word. That is the word. And so imposter syndrome is actually steeped into the ego. And so there is a difference between the use of the words. So that is why for many of you, you began to use the word empowered and leaving power as control, dictation, manipulation. And empowered became the inner word for you to use, that you are empowering yourselves into your gifts, into what it is that you came here to share with yourself and those around you. And for a lot of people, those two words still intermix. And what you are beginning to see is how that is actually starting to separate itself, because in truth, you still need your ego to be intact within yourself. But the new human suit that you are all stepping into, the new essence of who you are is, am I acting from empowerment through love? Or am I acting through empowerment through control and manipulation because I'm nervous to empower myself?
Because I'm nervous to empower myself. That makes so much sense and helps put it into perspective. And okay, as you're talking, it feels I can't stop thinking about the recent Olympics because it feels like such a display of everything you're explaining. Specifically, Alyssa Liu, when you talk about being essentially moving through your heart with love and being your full self and fully self-expressed, and how the rewards for that basically come immediately. I'm horribly paraphrasing what you said, but that's what I saw when she stepped on the ice to just fully express herself and then won gold without even trying. And it feels like that's such a metaphor for all of us. If we could just show up fully self expressed and in deep love and appreciation for who we are and our gifts to share with the world, that's what will move us all forward. Is that a decent visualization?
It's a beautiful example of just the essence of becoming. You are always becoming. You are always growing. You are always steeping in more of what it is that brings flavor into your world, that gives you that rainbow effect of wanting to wake up in the morning and begin your day as a human. And that has been very much manipulated into a way of saying that in order for you to have, quote, a happy, successful life, here is the platform and how to do that. And what has been happening for a very long time is people have been understanding that that necessarily isn't true, that each one of you has this unique way of expression of self. Each one of you has talents that need, it's time to be remembered. It's time to be experienced and practiced, and then giving yourself the moment to say, this is enough. I'm doing this, and not allowing what other people view of you. Many humans have such a collective frequency of worry of what other people will think of them. It is the thing that keeps you tied together, but it is also the thing that keeps you stepping into that rainbow effect of expressing yourself in ways that feel more natural yet fearful. For in truth, anything that is in your heart that wants to be expressed doesn't mean that it comes instantly easy. It means that in the moment that you're doing it, you feel alive, more alive than maybe what you did while you were preparing to do the thing. And it's in those moments that you are sending out a new frequency, a pillar of light, of love light that goes out into the ethers that begins to collect more of that. That is the basics of your understanding here of what manifestation is. But to know that not having to have an outcome in anything and just living your life and doing the things that give you that spurring on of this feels more in alignment, that becomes your empowerment. And it's
Mhm.
difficult because your use of words here have become very convoluted and have been manipulated in many senses of the word. Even the word empowerment has been used in a very manipulative way. But those of you who are coming from it with truth of your heart and taking time to actually go inward and learn, who am I as an essence of a human? What did I come here to express? How did I come to know these certain things? And how can I trust that softer image of myself to come through more? The more that you lean just slightly into that, that vortex of energy, that pillar of light will take you in without effort.
That just sounds so beautiful. And as you were talking, I felt like I'm reminded of the people who get really scared when anybody talks about just trusting and they say, well, I have bills to pay. That's not going to pay my bills. And it's true, like it gets scary on the planet with what we've created. But is there and I think you've answered it, but for anybody who is just too scared to let go of their fear, is there anything to say to them?
Fear is, again, as many are starting to understand, fear is just an ego way of attachment to what is. And so if you have fear that if I do this, will I have money follow? The true question needs to be, what will be the feeling place that I get from this if I step into this new thing? And the answer always is, you always feel better. If you're following it from the purity of love and empowerment, then things just come without you having to work out the how. It's in the essence of when fear takes over, there's nothing wrong with that. It would be a matter of how long are you going to ignore the fear? For in your humanness, you can take the time to be so present with that fear. And because so many of you have worked through shadow work, as what you would call it, or insecurities, or memories, or belief systems, that has now been steeped on the planet for quite a while. And so the moment that you tap into the fear, just being alone with the fear, just facing the fear, the energies of that begin to vanish. But the stories that you all continue to carry with you in regards to what fear is only propagates the essence of fear into your new reality, which is right now. Every moment you have a new reality. Does that answer your question?
That's beautiful. Thank you. So, yes, it reminds me of the old parable that you never step through the same river twice, even if you're in essentially the same spot, because the river's always moving. And whatever you put your focus on, that's what is going to grow in your life. You can either focus on the fear or you can focus on the love and the trust.
And what people are going to start to experience with this new trajectory of your conscious evolution here on the planet is how swiftly you can be taken into either direction. It will get faster. So if you're playing in the fear, never fear, it will pop you into more existence of fear. But it's only to remind you of the actual evidence of control that you have within yourself. It is the illusions that you are continuing to create for yourself. And because the timelines are picking up as you guys will perceive you are all going to start to also experience stepping more into love and trust, how quickly and swiftly it takes you into that direction. But we also must comment on the space in between fear and stepping into faith. For there's a lot of busyness that's happening on your planet, things that keep you occupied so you don't play with either or. And it's in those moments that you begin to see that the neutrality or the head in the sand or going into your addictions of things so that you can, quote, numb yourself out so that you do not have to deal with either sides of that coin. That is where most of you spend your time. And so what we see is if you are ready to allow yourself to step more into that love consciousness, into that 13th pillar for yourself, is take moments during your day to just reconnect with that energy of your soul. Your soul is your intuition. Your soul is the thing that is connected to all. And it only takes a moment to tune in. But for many of you, you're still busy in your daily living, in your daily experiences, and people taking your attention away. To empower yourself would mean, how often do you take the time to empower yourself today? And for those that choose to empower themselves purposely throughout the day through the busyness, are those that are going to feel more that exhilaration in what they are becoming. And those that choose to go into fear are going to experience more fear. There is a very much big dynamic shift happening now. Be careful of playing in the neutral place. It's no longer a space that you have to play in.
Okay, I'm glad you pointed out that in between, because I hadn't really thought of that. And the neutral place. Because I am seeing that as well. It seems more and more clear there's not really room for neutrality at the moment. But that in between space that you talked about really hit me because I know, just as you said, so many people move to some sort of numbing to evade the big feelings here. And I love that you pointed out the pillar of light. So I just wanted to reiterate that one to connect to the pillar of light because I know there's so many people who need to hear that.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, we are feeling complete with this interaction, and we are of utmost gratitude for the moments to be with you and in this container, for we sense that there is so much growth happening just within this container that you have created. And we want you to know that we are sending love and light to all that are stepping more into the 13th pillar for themselves, and that we hold you graciously and with pure divine love. For love has been something that has been used in a manipulation tactics for a millennia also on this planet. And there is no such thing as unconditional love, and we really want to make that known out to the world that there's only love. And love is the purity of the heart. with nothing attached to it, but actually a giving out sensation. And so when you all step into that 13th pillar of light, when you are in that neutral space for yourself, do not judge, do not berate. Step into the purity of the heart, which always emanates love. And with that, we say we are complete.
Thank you. What a beautiful experience. I feel honored to be a part of it. How do you feel?
I need a drink of water, first and
Mhm.
foremost. What was interesting was seeing the variations of when you were asking the question about fear, and then they were showing love and they were showing the in between place, and the amount of energy that's in that in between place was
Wow.
phenomenal. Like, I, in my human suit, never thought about it that way. Makes me
Yeah.
want to cry because we all are doing it. Like,
Yes.
and we have all these things and these tactics to numb ourselves out because we're in fear of whatever the next thing is that we're in fear of, because it's been so ingrained on this planet. Fear has been.
And it's perpetuated. And ironically, I think most people are probably numbing out by scrolling. I know that that's been my thing lately.
Yeah, I can get in that. Yep.
And somehow that perpetuates the fear.
It truly does. It keeps it alive. And it's not to say that it's not great to have that, right? I think there's always that balance of checking in. And that's why they kept saying, and I've heard this from them before, like, y'all just need to start checking in with yourself more often. But somehow, some way, and I understand why, because that's more of the intuitive side of ourselves. And that's very soft. And so when we're in a really loud world or a loud day, and you've got all of these things coming at you, to sit and pause feels like nothing. This is interesting. This is them still coming through, by the way.
Yes. Okay, good. Expand.
This is why we in their human suits still don't do that, because it's still so unbalanced with, the masculine are like, you got to get everything done. And if you don't do it, you're not successful. You're not going to have money, and where you're going to live, and where's the next food, and how you're going to pay your bills. But to pause during your day when you're in that field feels like nothing. And that's
Mhm.
the nothingness we're all supposed to be tapping into, because that's where your intuition lives. It's in the
Mm.
nothingness. It's in the pause. We've heard that. That's why we've learned, every tactic out there, from breath work to yoga to like, all of it teaches us that. But to do it during your daily living, I believe what they're sharing is that's where you can start to see the biggest shifts. Currently, is that the more that practice this in the collective, the easier it is for more to practice it, right? It's that old paradigm of like,
Yeah.
we couldn't run the 4-minute mile, but all of a sudden, once one person did it, they pushed that energy, they made the energy, they transmuted that energy and made it something different. And that keeps being the call that they're saying, but they say it in different ways every time, depending on what the topic is. And that's just dawning on me now in my human suit with all of that. And so that's why intuition still isn't the thing that's quite valued, because it is the softer. And so, unless you're in danger, we know that, but we're not being ran over by bears or having, and there are people who do. Like, I don't want to take that away
Right.
from people who are
No,
in
and I'm
bad
just laughing
positions.
because it feels that way whenever I have to open an email. And
Yeah.
it's like, why?
Okay. Yeah. And how that's just been conditioned into us.
Mhm.
And so I love that. I love being able to carry that information for myself to continue to practice that, because it's that softness that always trips me up. And
Yes.
it's why leading with your intuition right now has to be the focus until everything's in balance again, right? Like, we
Mhm.
can't take the patriarchal and not raise this up just a little bit so that people can flip into it, and then we come back down a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I always see balance as a movement. Like, we're never just like, okay, we're balanced and we're done.
So
And it,
Libra of you. Just have to say it. It's so spoken like a Libra. I freaking love that.
you're so
And
right.
it's the
You mean
truth.
with my 5 planets in Libra? That's
Yes.
weird.
Yes.
That's weird that I would talk like
I
that.
freaking love that so much, Rebecca. Yes, that's exactly it.
But everything is just moving all the time. And so when we've had such a huge pendulum shift of patriarchy, and our most recent history has been very male dominated, aggressive, make this plan and conquer things and don't take a nap and don't be a wuss. So we really do need this big push to come over and say, actually, no, I'm gonna take a nap and you're not gonna conquer me. I'm my own person. What are you talking
Yeah,
about? And have this more feminine rising so that we can go back and forth a little bit and find the equilibrium
1000%.
and find that dance. So it was hitting me too as I was listening to the 13 pillars and as we've been talking. I've been kind of confused, like for myself. I think I've told you before, I joked, like, I never really identified much as a girl or a woman. Like, wasn't important to me until recently. And I'm like, why is it when I'm in perimenopause and I'm losing all my woman hormones that all of a sudden I'm a woman?
Right?
But I'm realizing there's just such a collective awakening of it. And I was so steeped in all the patriarchal aspects for a variety of reasons. And I
Heck
mean,
yeah.
so many of us were. Yes,
We had
that's how
to.
we survive.
We had to. We didn't really have a choice. That's how we had to survive, and
Yeah.
that's how we were going to rise up, because anything that's suppressed has an opportunity to rise, sadly to say.
See, yes. And that's what was hitting me. It's like, oh, I needed that experience. So I knew what was going on. And so I could know even more why this place we're moving to is better.
Yes. Yeah. And it's exceptional because you know those moments that you move into. It's funny when they were talking about, just stepping into something of love, right? Stepping into something that fuels your passion because it's attached to the soul and not the ego. Like when a step is attached to the soul and you take that leap of faith because it's in your soul of souls, right? It's in the doing that it expands your light, and therefore it will feel better than anything that any other experience that you could have had during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what should feed us right now. Because
Yes.
when we're fed that way, led through the soul instead of the ego, what happens is everything that you do need, and there's a difference between need and want, I think, everything that you need will be provided. And as you keep leaning more and more to that, then it just expounds it almost like, what is the word when compound? It compounds on itself. So therefore, even
Oh,
the desires come through. So at the beginning, I think when you're stepping through something, if you can know that what you need will be there and let go of that grandiose idea that all of my desires are going to be there, that's what's tripping up. And that's the old way of using manifesting. You're stepping into it because everything you need will be there. And then it compounds because then you're going to keep doing it until all of the desires that you did want. Now, this could be my innocence coming through, and I know that through human design, but it does feel like that's more organic for everybody.
mm-hmm.
Because I think sometimes when we're working on manifesting something, we have to be empowered to do it, which means we have to step in through, like, what does my soul desire? And what would be the best step?
Yes.
And that means getting quiet with yourself to ask that question. What does my soul desire right now? Because the head will tell you this is what you should desire.
Right, right. The head says, go get a corporate job with a,
The benefits and everything
yes,
else, and that you can't do anything that you really want to do. And that's what a lot of us have been working through. But now it's popped through that so many people, COVID really helped with that. So many of us realize,
yes,
yeah, I'm paying it. Like, listen, we've had to pay out of pocket for insurance for, I don't know, 10 years now. But it's okay. We somehow have done it, right? Even when the prices are
yeah,
extra, not they're quote ridiculous, but I don't have to worry about that as long as I'm leading with what my soul's purpose, my soul desire is.
right. And that's just another thing where I think about if we move more into a matriarchal ideal as opposed to the patriarchal. When you're talking about at the top of this episode, women are more community based. Studies after study have shown, and just watching women has shown that when women get money, they take care of people, they take care of
Absolutely.
communities.
Yep.
And matriarchy has children in the middle and well being in the middle. It's not a ladder, it's a circle, it's a community, it's a caretaking. And I just can't help but think, why why do we have to pay for healthcare? That's the weirdest thing to me.
Totally agree.
Like, okay, well, maybe we will be moving more into a universal system. Other countries do it, and just a whole bunch of different things that are really fascinating to think about. Like if women were in charge and if your soul's expression was in charge, how different this world would be. And I mean, I'm going to bring her up again because it just seems like such a perfect example. But like watching Alyssa Liu again, she was just an expression of herself. and she said, "This is how I'm going to do it, either or I'm going to quit." And then she goes out and she does an amazing job. And she's not the only athlete that did that.
Oh,
I've
no.
seen other women. She's
Yeah.
just the one that's like most prevalent in my mind. And there's been another one, Eileen Gu, I've been learning more about, and she's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just to watch on this world scale these women showing up in this way that we're describing here, where they're saying, "No, I'm doing this because this is the highest expression of myself."
Yes.
Like with
Yep.
Eileen, a reporter asked her, "Well, you have 2 silver medals. Do you feel like you lost 2 gold medals?"
Yes, that answer was it was amazing when I listened to her
Yes.
again. Yeah. And I love that because I think it really does gives us like sometimes, as we age, right? We have wisdom within us, but I think we're just tapping into how to tap into our own wisdom because a lot of the times there's just judgment in it. And I have always seen that as we age, sometimes we look at the younger generations and always kind of damn them like, oh, they shouldn't be doing this or that.
That
And the
seems to be the
truth
theme.
is that we are only as good as what the generation previous was, right? So we always have to give kudos to what other people have experienced, right? Because we really are living in such a different timeline than even when we did with kids and our parents and our grandparents. But these younger generation kids who've been supported in a different way, who've come in with probably a more knowing of who they are and are showing the world on a massive stage. Like there's no doubt to me that those 2 women and many others that have been coming forth, like that the timeline is now and they were just showing up doing what they love, right? Leading with what they love first. And the whole world sees it and says, oh my gosh, that's what I want. That's like planting seeds, but in a massive way, which tells you exactly where we're growing on the planet, which is fabulous. And it's not to say that, and I agree that we are still in this evolution of who we're becoming, but it also means that we're giving permission for the masculine to reset itself so it feels safe and secure in stepping more into its own creativity and not having to quote provide
Yes.
and just but provide in a way that feels more safe and secure for them and for us. And I know that's coming too.
Hmm. Because we are meant to dance together and to work
Yes.
together. And this whole men versus women thing is so infuriating to me. But it is beautiful to watch. I've been encountering more and more men who are more thoughtful and more caring and not so scary
Yeah.
from my own personal experience. I even saw a TikTok of this guy once. He's laying in bed and he's like, "You know what? I'm realizing men aren't supposed to be the leaders. We're terrible leaders." He's like, I wouldn't mind, like, I'm okay being the submissive one. Let the women lead.
Yeah.
I'll take care of the stuff in the background. You take care of the leading." And I was like, "What?" And he was
Yeah.
just so happy he's like, this is what needs to happen.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so the men are getting on board.
Because we're led with intuition.
Yes.
When we're in balance, we can sense. I mean, and it does show up in some of our history, right? Like when, ancient groups, tribes, or clans would, go out hunting, they would always look to the women to say, how much do we need? And then they would follow suit. Only one, so let's say it was buffalo or whatever they were hunting at that time to survive, right? To live in the community. And they would listen and they would come back. And truly, I feel like some of this also has to do with like why women's even cycles have become more difficult because that was the time when women were releasing their, in their flow is because they're releasing for the whole clan, all the things that were disruptive or things that didn't go well, right? And then you start anew and say, okay, this is where we're at now. My intuition is telling us that this is probably the best for the collective. Right. But it also didn't mean that it took away from you as an individual. And I don't know that they had that back then, I feel like it was so tribal. It had to be that way. But we're starting to step into, I believe, this area where that intuitive side of females is going to be honored and revered. And everyone along with the collective will have what they need and desire.
Yes.
Because nobody's taking anything that doesn't disrupt the flow of other people because it won't connect. It won't happen.
Right.
And people can own that. Like, why isn't this happening for me? It's like, because maybe that desire is too steeped into an egoic way instead of what your heart driven is way. And I truly believe that
Right.
that's what they've been. It's funny. I got to tell you this, Rebecca. So this week, as I've been channeling with the 13 pillars, I've gotten this information, but it wasn't as clear as it was today in the idea of how manifestation is changing. I kept getting the big pillar, like seeing people in power and how they've utilized it and created more of an illusion for all of us to have to work through, which was part of our journey. Like, oh, I can create what I want. Like, I don't have to do what you tell me. Like, oh, there's the awakening, right? And that's
Right.
when it all started, right? But they kept saying, but manifesting is going to change. It's changing now, but you've got to understand how it's been diluted. You guys have all gone into this. This is what I desire. I have to have this. I have to have this and this and this. And it's like, but you've been leading with ego, not all the time. Let me state that. Sometimes I'm saying things so pronounced that I forget to talk about the other side. It's not all the time, but it's why things that have manifested for you have manifested because it's been the thing that's been led by your heart.
Hmm.
Things that may have manifested for you, but they kind of crumbled when you got there and you're like, whoa, I thought this is what I wanted, or it has no meaning to me, is because it's been ego driven.
That's just is so exactly what I know we talked about before, how, as a single mom, my
Yeah.
heart's desire was to be present for my kids in specific ways. And that's exactly what I got. My ego desire was like, well, maybe I should be a teacher because that's study and the schedule and blah, blah, blah. Could not for the life of me get a teacher job. As much as I tried and as many connections as I made, like, no, not for you. And it was really painful and disheartening. And I took it not well. But now that I'm on the other side of it and I'm
Yeah.
able to rest a bit, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, no, exactly like you were saying, like that was the ego thing. I didn't want to be a teacher. I wanted the steady paycheck so I could take care of my kids.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then when the heart desire, like I built some beautiful things with that and the money didn't really follow as it needed, but there's more for me to unpack in that we're not getting into right now. But it's just so wild. So I'm glad that you brought that up to look at that. And I only bring up my experience to so maybe it sparks something for somebody else to really, really feel into that difference in their own life.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's going to take a minute for us to really realize what is it.
Hmm.
Because I'm even thinking about things like, things that I've wanted before and how it's like, but I was pushing, that's ego, right? Or it's because I wanted to look differently to people. That's been a big thing for me. You know that. Like even coming out as doing this type of work was a big egoic thing for me. What are
I
people going to
know.
think? What are people going to think? And I'm like, and that's what I've spent the last couple of years working through is like, you gotta like, that's your fear and that's ego driven.
Okay, and so could we just pause on that for a moment and really celebrate you for showing up on this podcast episode, for even talking about channeling and then actually channeling on this episode?
Yeah.
And we're going to share it with people. And I know that this would have been much more painful for you even 6 months ago.
Very much so. Yeah. This is very organic. This is very authentic. Like there's nothing. And even in those the transmissions that I offer for free, like they're extremely organic and authentic. Like I'm showing up with hair wet. Like whenever I feel the hit, which is usually in the morning, I'm just showing up. And that's all I can do.
It's like, can you wait till I get cute? It's like, no.
Truly, truly. And I'm like, but that's my time. That's my time of connecting. And that's what I've created. And it's not to say that it won't change, and that's what I love about this is like, it's giving me practice to just show up,
Yes.
to just show up. So I thank you for asking me to do this. I really do. And they are very grateful, obviously.
Well, good. I'm grateful to you for sharing your insights and your wisdom with us and for sharing this time. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank
I
you,
love you
honey.
so much.
I love you too.
And I'm excited. Quick little preview. We will be back at some point
Yes, I
to
think so.
talk more,
Maybe,
and
maybe
it's going
some,
to be great.
yeah, maybe some
It'll be more
astrology.
astrology stuff.
Yeah.
The generation stuff we've been talking about,
Yeah.
we're going to dig into the astrology of it,
Yeah,
look at
that's
the
gonna be
story, and
fun.
it's going to be so fun.
That's gonna be really
Okay.
fun. All right, honey.
Well, thank you so much. I just
You're
have
welcome.
one quick last question that I really love to ask people because again, actually, sorry, I have two because
Okay.
this season is about success.
Okay.
We're redefining success.
Yeah.
So my first last question to you is how do you define success right now in this moment of your life?
Well, I would have to say that success for me is knowing that when I take action and it feels exuberant to me, that's success. Yeah. That's,
I think that's beautiful.
yeah, that's mine. Yeah.
That's so
Good
beautiful.
question.
Yes. And my last question, again, the mission of Full Heart is to fill your heart so full of love, to give you permission to fill your heart so full of love that it
Mm.
overflows and that empowers other people, which is everything we just talked to the 13 pillars about.
Yeah.
And so I just love to ask people, what fills your heart with love? What do you do these days that bring you joy?
Obviously connected with the 13 pillars. Family. It's always family for me. My kids and my husband, and when we have those moments. So that's what's been filling, that always fills up my soul. And then just deep connection with people. Always. If I can sit down and have a deep conversation about what's going on for you, like the truth of what's going on with you, the good, the crazy, like that always for me is heart filling because it's,
Yeah.
to me, it's deep, true connection. And that's, yeah, I think that's the essence of who Michelle is, that she always wants to have deep connections with people.
Spoken like such a four-line.
Right? It is very true. Freaking true.
But I love it. Okay. Okay. Thank
Thank you,
you
honey.
so much, friend.
Yeah. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye. Hi, friends. This episode, I get to interview my very dear friend, Michelle, and it is a beautiful, amazing episode. I just want to give you a quick preview. We get to talk about a little bit about what Michelle does with her clients, but mostly Michelle is a channeler. She channels the 13 pillars of light. And they have such a beautiful message of love in this world. And they specify this in the episode. We get to actually experience the channeling and we get to actually talk to the 13 pillars of light. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience. And they express this. I just felt really called to reiterate the fact that they talk about how the 13th pillar is you. It's me. It's you listening to this right now. It's Michelle when she's channeling. And really, it's that 13 pillars about bringing everybody in together as a collective, as a community. It's not like Michelle is doing something super fancy. She's just fulfilling her destiny by being a channeler, by sharing this message. But you yourself are part of this experience and part of the 13th pillar. And so you get to be in the energy of it when you are listening to it and when you are communicating with it or acting with these messages, and that you are always welcome to interact as much as you want as well. And that just felt really important to reiterate, because as we're moving forward, Michelle and I talk a lot about the collective energy moving forward, being more of a divine feminine, being more of a collective, a community, more of a matriarchal energy and moving out of the patriarchal energy. And so that's exactly what this feels like, where we're all coming together and taking care of each other and loving each other and really bringing each other up. And it's just a beautiful experience. And I'm looking forward to sharing this episode with you and this message with you. And I would love to hear your feedback after. So thank you so much. Let's dive in.